Stay safe, reduce your contacts. Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1.
Good afternoon, I'm Julie Smyth. Today's top stories. COVID outbreak affects staff and services at Bus Éireann in Waterford. A 2020 Leaving Cert student loses his court case against the calculated grade system. And in sport, Johnny Sexton extends his contract with the IRFU. A COVID outbreak has affected staff and services at Bus Éireann in Waterford. The company has confirmed that 8 workers have tested positive out of a staff of 160. Because other employees are being required to self-isolate, 5% of services did not run as scheduled in the last week, according to the company. Tom O'Connor is a representative with the National Bus and Rail Union. He says bus drivers are very concerned and the union is calling for their workers to be moved up the vaccine priority list.
The National Bus and Rail Union wrote to the Minister a number of months ago looking to prioritise transport workers with the vaccination. I mean, this just demonstrates the need for that. Frontline transport workers, whether it be mechanics crawling all over a bus, drivers, or they're exposed to this on a daily basis.
The Taoiseach says the fall in the number of people in hospital with COVID-19 shows restrictions and vaccines are having an impact. The number of patients across the hospital system with the virus has fallen below 500 for the first time in 2021. There are 116 people with COVID in ICU compared with 221 during the peak of the third wave. 2 of those are in ICU in University Hospital Waterford, where there were 25 patients with the virus being treated as of 8 p.m. last night. Micheál Martin says these are all positive signs.
The work of the people is having an impact. That's the main point today. People's behaviour is impacting on the number of people in hospitals is going down, the number of intensive care is going down, and also the impact of vaccination is beginning to be seen in a reduction of hospital-based infections and in nursing home-based outbreaks as well. So that's very good news.
Tramore GP Austin Byrne says people who have concerns about the vaccine should seek a reputable source for an answer. Anti-vaccine protesters have been distributing leaflets in the Ferrybank and Ballybeg areas of Waterford recently. Tramore Medical Centre is vaccinating 160 over 85 patients today. Dr Byrne says the vaccines do have side effects, but overall are safe.
People will on average feel a little bit off, forgive me using the term, mild man flu symptoms tomorrow. And we know after the second dose that 10% of people will feel feverish and unwell enough to want to take to the couch for a day or two afterwards. And we do know that maybe 1 in 1,000 will react to the point where they feel really pretty unwell and perhaps, God, should I have gotten this vaccine at all? But again, in turn, that illness passes off.
There are a record 860,000 people on public hospital waiting lists due to the impact of COVID-19, according to the Irish Hospital Consultants Association. The IHCA says there will be 200,000 fewer public hospital appointments this year, on top of 723,000 cancelled appointments last year due to the pandemic. Rob Landers, consultant at University Hospital Waterford, says the HSE service plan for 2021 doesn't go far enough.
So really, we have an incredible number of patients out there who have either missed an appointment or who are still on a waiting list. And they're going to be on waiting lists for quite some time to come unless we put a plan in place to sort it out.
A 2020 Leaving Cert student has lost his court case against the system adopted to calculate his grade for last year's exams. Freddie Sherry from Selbridge, County Kildare, claimed his mark was unfairly downgraded, which in turn cost him a place in his first choice of college course. Our course correspondent Frank Rainey reports.
With 542 points, Freddie Sherry was on course to study pharmacy in Trinity, but he claimed he lost out on his top choice due to what happened next. His mark, which was estimated by his teachers at Belvedere College in Dublin, was reduced by 55 points in a second phase overseen by the Department of Education. Freddie claimed the decision not to allow his school's track record in the Leaving Cert to be included in the final calculation of his mark to be unfair and unlawful, but Mr Justice Charles Meenan disagreed. Not only did he decide the decision to exclude historical school data was lawful and fair, he said it was very clear that the estimated marks from Belvedere were significantly inflated when compared with what the school achieved in past years. Today's decision will be carefully analysed by up to 60 other cases due to be heard later this month. Frank Rainey at the High Court.
A man in his 30s has been arrested in relation to a firework attack on Gardaí at a protest in Dublin on Saturday. He was arrested this morning, can be detained for up to 3 days. He's the 24th person who's been arrested in connection with the protest, and 13 people have already appeared in court. Meanwhile, the chair of the Waterford Joint Policing Committee hopes that social media platforms will play a role in preventing anti-lockdown protests from taking place. Several Gardaí were injured at the event in Dublin on Saturday. Independent councillor Declan Clune understands that a similar protest was due to take place in Waterford last weekend. He says the events are concerning.
Particularly when you have kind of far-right groups such as you had up in Dublin on Saturday afternoon. And I think we all need to be careful of these groups. And to be honest, I hope the social media platforms and remove any various pages that have been used to organise these protests. Like, I believe there's more protests been planned for Cork and Dublin. I think one around St Patrick's Day and one this weekend. I believe there was one scheduled last weekend in West Waterford, but the Gardaí intervened and stopped it before it took place.
11 councillors in Waterford have said they're not going to back the application for the Technological University of the South East. The decision follows a recent presentation by WIT's President and Vice President for Strategy to Waterford Council last week. The group, comprised of Labour and Independents, say there's been no firm commitment by the government regarding Waterford. Independent councillor Mary Roach says there has been too many vague promises.
We don't feel that it would be responsible for us to back the application based on vague promises. It's as simple as that. We cannot just sign up at any price. This has to be a good deal for Waterford. It has to be a good deal for our citizens. And as it's currently construed, it simply isn't. There is no money on the table. There is no clarification on the headquarters.
Waterford councillors have been defending their attendance records at meetings. A recent newspaper report highlighted that only 3 councillors in Waterford attended all their meetings in 2020. However, they say there's no opportunity to record the reason for absences or provision for sick leave or maternity leave. Independent councillor Joe Conway said overall the councillors' record was impressive.
Unlike people in the Oireachtas who have sick leave and devices like that, we have no way of recording that, and you're either there or you're not. On the overall balance, if you work at the figures for the number of councils, the number of meetings and the number of members, our actual overall attendance rate for 2020 was just slightly above 90%. And I think any organisation who's getting an overall attendance of 90% should take a big bow.
Make the smart play with Virgin Media. Check out their smart home packages at Virgin Media, George's Street, Waterford.
Sponsors of the sports news on WLR.
To rugby first, and Darling captain Johnny Sexton says his appetite for success is the same as it ever was after he signed a 1-year contract extension with the IRFU. The new deal will see him stay with Leinster until the end of next season. The Blues out-half, who was named the World Player of the Year in 2018, turns 36 in July. To horse racing, and Rob James has confirmed he is the individual sitting on a dead horse in a video circulating on social media. The Cheltenham Festival winning amateur jockey has issued an apology over the clip, which is being investigated by the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board. It's been reported that the footage is from April 2016 and shows James sitting aboard a deceased 5-year-old mare on an unidentified gallop. The video has emerged just days after a photograph of trainer Gordon Elliott sitting on a dead horse. Meanwhile, Minister of State for Sport Jack Chambers says he wouldn't want to see Elliott at Cheltenham, which starts in 2 weeks' time. Elliott's under investigation from the IHRB and has been banned from racing in Britain by the British Horse Racing Authority until the investigation here is concluded. Separately, the Elliott-trained Tiger Roll has been withdrawn from this year's Grand National, which takes place in April. Gigginstown Stud have withdrawn their horse at Tuesday's forfeit stage, claiming the horse's allocated handicap mark did not reflect his obvious decline. To soccer now, and Manchester City can stretch their winning run to 21 games in all competitions this evening. They face Wolves in the Premier League, and victory would send them 15 points clear at the top. But after losing both top-flight games to their opponents last season, manager Pep Guardiola is wary.
They play with your ambition and patience to punish you. So you have to be so clever the way you have to play, because the last years always was so tough for the quality, for the structure they have, for the quality of the players they have, and this year will not be an exception.
Former Sligo Rovers boss Paul Cook has been named the new Ipswich town manager. Cook's agreed a 2.5-year contract at the League One club and will be at tonight's game at Accrington. And the former Liverpool player and TV host Ian St John has passed away at the age of 82 following an illness. He made 425 appearances as a forward for the Reds between 1961 and 71, scoring 118 goals. Finally, to Camogie, and the Waterford senior Camogie team are busy working away with their individual training programmes at the moment. The Déisha are under a new manager in Derek Lyons this season, with the Dungarvan clubman taking over from Fergal O'Brien. All-star Lorraine Bray told WLR Sport she's making good use of the walkway in Cappoquin GA Club.
Yeah, it's ideal. We're actually doing runs during the week as well, and I'd always come down here to the track around the pitch. It's 1 kilometre all around, so it's easy to track your run as well, and surfaces good around it, so it's handy, it's ideal. It's only over the road for me and for Jenny, so it's ideal, and it's a brilliant asset to have in Cappoquin.
Sports news on WLR thanks to Virgin Media Waterford.